Bismillah, read. Pass me the jacket, please.
عن أم سعيد الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بين أنا نائم رأيت الناس يعرضون علي.
What يعرضون or يعرضون? يعرضون, yeah, that makes more sense, right? What قمص. قمص, okay.
ومنها ما دون ذلك وعرض علي عمر بن الخطاب
فما أولت. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We're discussing still the virtue, the manaqib of Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. وأنا أبي سعيد الخدري, narrating the authority of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He says that قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, Rasul said, بيننا أنا نائم. Once whilst I was sleeping, رأيت الناس, I saw the people, the Muslims, يعرضون علي, they were presented to me. وعليه قمص, وعليهم قمص, and they had on them on the right page. Just check. Somebody's asking about the page. Just check you on the right page. Right page, right. So they had وعليهم قمص, قمص جمع of قميص. Right. It's right now, right? So وعليهم قمص, they had on them shirts, right? منها ما يبلغ الثدي, from amongst them those who reached like just the chest or lower. ومنها ما دون ذلك, those were more than that. وأُرِضَ علي عمر بن الخطاب, and as Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu was, or dun actually means lesser than that, sorry. Then Umar ibn Khattab was presented to me, right? وعليه قميص, but he had such a long garment, يجره, that he had to drag it. قالوا فما أولت ذلك. So they said, Ya Rasulullah, how do you interpret that, right? Right? What is it that he had a long garment, such a long garment that he had to drag it? In other words, he had more garment than anybody else, right? Right? فما أولت ذلك ذلك فما أولت ذلك قال الدين. He said دين متفق عليه. So in other words, what he's saying that he had more deen in him. So I told you, I spoke to you before, I mentioned you, one is alam misal, one is the alam dunya, what actually happens in this dunya, right? And what is alam misal? Alam misal means like a reflection of things in this dunya. So like you see things in the dream, like how Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam sometime was taken, not bodily, but his soul was taken. Was taken on his nocturnal journey. He was shown something. So, Alam Misal, the things in Alam Misal, it is a representative of something else in this dunya. So, in Alam Misal, a shirt, an upper garment, a long garment, a big garment, it is representative of what deen, contribution to deen, etc. And like how we discussed yesterday, remember we discussed yesterday that as Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu was a Khalifa for over 10 years, just over 10 years, and his contribution to deen was magnanimous, right? In terms of what? In terms of quantity. Although as Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he was Khalifa for a shorter period, much shorter period, but there was a very, very critical period. Remember, if he didn't stabilize the situation, the fluid situation at that point in time, Islam could have been overrun. There were false prophets, etc. So we'll say in terms of quantity, as Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu's contribution, and I'm stressing this because there's another hadith that's going to speak about this as well. There's the forthcoming hadith is also going to speak about this. That in terms of quantity, maybe as Umar's contribution was bigger, but in terms of quality, Hazrat Abu Bakr's contribution was bigger. Remember, even the first hadith we done there, where Hazrat Umar spoke about the single night and the single day of Hazrat Abu Bakr. It was so great. It was such a huge contribution, right? So, in Alam Misal, we'll say that the qamis or the upper garment, etc., it is representative of a great contribution to deen. That's why I said, Fama awalta, we say a deen. He explained it to be deen, right? I told you he had a long khilafat. He done a lot of khidmat. We spoke about the different masajid he had built. And we spoke about the justice, the equity, the stipends introduced to the poor people, etc., etc. Okay, read the next one. Read the next hadith, inshallah. وعن ابن عمر
سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول بين أنا نائم أتيت
بقدح لبن مضاف إليه
فشربت حتى إني لأرى الرؤيا
حتى إني لأرى الرية. Okay, let me translate it. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وعن ابن عمر حمزة وصلنا on the authority of the Umar قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول, I heard the Rasul saying بين أنا نائم, once whilst I was sleeping, like I told you, sometimes Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was shown things physically, like in the Mi'raj, and sometimes he had what we term as nocturnal journeys. It was only with the ruh, not with the jism. Remember, he used to sit with the Sahaba Ikram, and after Salah, Fajr Salah, we would ask him if anybody's seen a dream. If anybody's seen a dream, he would interpret the dream for them. If nobody saw a dream, then he would say what he saw. So this is one of those occasions. So he said, بين أنا نائم أوتيت بقدح لبن. I was brought with a utensil of milk. فشربت, I drank حتى أني لأرى الري, until I saw satiation, right? يخرج في أظفاري. To such an extent, it was coming out of my nails, right? Now, just before we carry on, in Arabic, normally, when you say, or maybe this is an Arabian expression, that somebody has an abundance of something. In Arabic, in the time of Nabi Sallallahu, when you want to express this, that somebody has an abundance of something, you say it even comes out of his nails. It comes out of his nails. That is why there's a hadith that said that when a person make wudu, etc., the sins that even under his nails, it will come out. So abundance of something refer to where the nails is full of it, right? So, إني لأرى الريح يخرج في أظفاري. It was coming out of my nails, right? Carry on. ثم أعطيت فضلي عمر بن الخطاب. So then I gave the extra. I drank so deep that it came out of my nails. I told you the expression of being abundant. Then I gave the access to ثم أعطيت فضلي عمر بن الخطاب, to Umar ibn al-Khattab, right? Right. So قالوا, they said, the Sahaba Ikram said, فما أولته يا رسول الله. So how do you interpret this, Ya Rasulullah? In other words, how do you interpret this, that you drank so much that it came out of your nails, and after that you gave the extra to Umar? So what is this, right? So he said, al-ilm, it is knowledge. Muttafaqun alayhi, it's a muttafaq alayhi riwayat. So I told you that in Alam Misal, you see certain things, they are representative of something different in the dunya, right? So like how extra cloth, a large upper cloth in Alam Misal, It is representative of what? Of deen, contribution to deen. Then generally, milk in alam mithal. It is representative of knowledge, etc. Are you with me? So the things, so the basis of the whole science of ta'bir ru'ya, of explaining and understanding dreams, etc., etc., it comes from the Quran and Hadith, because there are many references in the Quran, there are many references in the Hadith to dreams and to what certain things mean, certain things in the alam and mistal, what it means in the dunya, etc. So from this we learn that drinking milk, etc., etc., it refers to knowledge. So if you see the dream milk, distribution of milk, or you drinking milk, or somebody giving you milk to drink, or milk being distributed, etc., then it is what? It is representative of knowledge. I tell you, araya means satiation, right? So remember, um, الفضيلة الجزئية لا تستلزم الفضيلة الكلية. For anybody to be more virtuous in one particular aspect doesn't mean that you are more virtuous, overall virtuous, than the next person in another aspect. So it was Umar radiallahu ta'ala who got the virtue of drinking deep from the knowledge and from the insight and from the wisdom of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That doesn't mean that he's overall more virtuous than Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, right? Okay, read the next right. Read the next one, Luqman.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وعن ابي هريره رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول بين انا نائم من بعيد على طين عليها وضوء فنزعت منها ما شاء الله ثم اخذ من حديث قحافه فنزع منها ذنوبا او ذنوبين وفي نزع.
Stop there. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وعن أبي هريرة, also rated on the authority of Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول, once I heard Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم saying, everybody recites صلى الله عليه وسلم when you hear the name, right? يقول بينما أنا نائم, once whilst I was resting. So this shows you also one of those ruhi journeys, right? رأيتني على قليب, I saw myself at a qalib, normally referred to, we'll do a little bit of this just now, a deserted well, right? عليها دلو, upon it was, like those of you saw a well, you have a bucket to draw the water from it, right? دلو. فنزعت منها ما شاء الله, then I harvested, I extracted from it whatever Allah Ta'ala wished. In other words, I took whatever what I want. ثم أخذها ابن أبي قحافة, then Abu Quhafa referred to as Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, right? He took it. ثم أخذ ابن أبو قحافة فنزع منها ذنوبا أو ذنوبين. He took maybe one bucket, right? ذنوبا أو ذنوبين, or two buckets, right? وفي نزعه ضعف, and in his extracting and harvesting of the water there was a little bit of weakness, right? Carry on. Luqman, carry on.
في نزعه ذؤب والله يغفر له ضعفه.
Yeah. So wallahu yaghfiru lahu ضعفه, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive his weakness, right? Carry on.
ثم استحالت قلبه فأخذ
Right. ثم استحالت غربا, what you, oh, then that makes sense. So you got ثم استحالت دلوا, is that you got دلوا in your kitab there? Huh? طلوا عظيما, let me just change it here, that okay, I got دلوا ثم استحالت دلوا عظيما, I got غربا, that doesn't make sense at all. Right. You also got Dalwan Aziman, Luqman. You got Gharban also. Loud? Oh, okay. ثم استحالت غربا دلونا. Then it changed to a big bucket, right? Let me see what they say here. Okay, also I see also they say in the okay. You said Dalwan Aziman. I thought that's a part of the text. So I thought my text is wrong. Right? ثم استحالت غربا. It changed to a big bucket. فأخذها ابن الخطاب. Then as Umar ibn Khattab took it, فلم أرى أبقرية من الناس. Right? ينزع نزع أمره. Then I did not see a young strong person, right? I did not see a young strong person, right? From amongst the people, ينزع نزع أمره, extracting water like the extraction of Umar. حتى ضرب الناس بأطن, until to such an extent that the people made a place of water, like where the animals come to water. What you got there, Atan? Right, like in an oasis. وفي رواية ابن عمر, and another رواية ابن عمر قال ثم أخذها ابن الخطاب. In another رواية, the same thing is expressed in the first verse here, that وفي رواية ابن عمر, it has عمر, in another رواية ابن عمر ثم أخذها ثم أخذ ابن الخطاب. Ibn Khattab took a bucket من يد أبي بكر, from the hands of Abu Bakr, فاستحالت في يده غربا, then it changed in his hands to a big bucket. فلم أرى أبقريا, I did not see a young man يفري فريه, like satiating, he's satiating, حتى روى الناس, until the people became satiated, وضربوا بأطن, and then they created a place of water. Muttafaqun alayh. This is a muttafaq alayh riwayat. So I told you qalib here means, like you can say, an abandoned well or something like that. Or even maybe in this context here, it doesn't mean an abandoned well, but just a well, right? Just a well. So what's the idea of saying that it is an abandoned well? The idea of saying it's abandoned well is that normally uh, only people of great courage, people of great ambition, right? They would go to what? They would go to a place where there's nobody living there. They'd go to an abandoned place and they would create something out of nothing. So we know that prior to Islam, Jahiliyah, nahnu qawmun, a'azzana Allah bil-Islam, the Arabs were despised, they were looked down upon, etc. The superpowers of that time, not even interested to them. Even today, wherever you see the superpowers are interfering, whether it is Afghanistan or whether it is Iraq or whether it is Somalia, if you probe deep, what you will find? What will you find? There's some type of resources there. There's some type of valuable resources there. They come in the name of liberating the woman and creating human rights and all that type of thing. But there's no such thing as human rights, and there's no such thing as human rights. The only thing is extraction of resources. If they were so interested in human rights, and if they were so extracted in human rights, and if they were so interested in children's rights, they would have allowed so many thousands of children to be murdered and genocided in Gaza. So it's telling you that you'll only find the superpowers, you'll only find people where there's some type of benefit, where there's not. So the Arabs, there was nothing, there was no agriculture, there was no trade, there was no commerce, there was nothing in Arabia. That's why the Persians and the Romans, they were not interested in the Arabians. They were not interested. That's why when the Sahaba Ikram made their first venture out of Arabia, when they first fight with the Syrians, what they told him, why did you leave the desert? Are you people hungry? Do you need food? We'll give you food, go back to the desert. I'm just paraphrasing. So there was nothing there. They were a despised people. They were people that people looked down upon, etc. Right? But Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then as Abu Bakr, as Umar, etc., etc., they made something out of nothing. They created something out of nothing. So this here, that's why it's referred to as a qalib, an abandoned well, where there's nothing there. They came. نحن قوم أعزنا الله بالإسلام. We were such a people that Allah Ta'ala granted us honor and Allah Ta'ala granted us respect through Islam. Right? ولو طلبنا في غيرها لأذننا الله. And if we look for respect and honor in besides deen, then Allah Ta'ala will disgrace us. Right? So so in simple words, the whole scenario of extracting water from an abandoned well and then benefiting people to such an extent that that becomes an oasis where people come and benefit from him. It is representative of the Arabian Peninsula, which was nothing. It was worth nothing. Nobody was interested in it. But then, through the efforts of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Sahaba Ikram, etc., they made it into something. Zanuban refers to the bucket that is normally used to extract the water from the well. So the hadith says there, فَنَزَأَ مِنْهَا ذَنُوبًا أَوْ ذَنُوبَيْنِ. Right? That is Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he extracted one bucket or two buckets. This is the shak of the Rawi. The Rawi is not sure of exactly what he heard, right? وَفِي نَزْعِهِ ضَعْفٌ. So if you look at the hadith just on a surface level, it appears that, see, as Abu Bakr's extraction of the water from the well was a bit weak, right? He only extracted one bucket or two buckets. But as Umar radiallahu ta'ala was a young, strong man, and he extracted so much water to such an extent, he created a water point. He created a oasis. So this is not a tanqis of Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu in any way. This does not show any weakness of Hazrat Abu Bakr, because we know for a fact that Hazrat Abu Bakr was not lesser than Umar. He was way ahead of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. But if we understand the context which we explained several times before, that remember, after the demise of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was a lot of upheaval in the Arabian Peninsula. There was a lot of upheaval in the Arabian Peninsula. The Arabs started becoming murtad, and there were the opportunists, those that didn't want to pay zakat. There were those who said they also pay zakat, but they won't give it to the Khalifa. They will discharge it themselves. There were those people that thought, now this is the end of Islam. There's no benefit in accepting Islam. Islam has come to an end. Then there were those people who were even the worst. They were opportunists. They thought now that our Nabi Sallallahu was a prophet, they can also claim prophethood. So as Umar radiallahu ta'ala, as Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala, and whose efforts was mostly concentrated in stabilizing the situation. He played a role of consolidation, right, and stabilization. There wasn't scope for expansion at that point in time. There wasn't scope for expansion. He played a role of consolidation and stabilization. So this is what the hadith means. It doesn't mean that as Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu was in any way lesser than as Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. We know for a fact that even by the admission of as Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, as Abu Bakr was way ahead of him. So this here, it just is making reference to the fact that there wasn't rapid expansion. There wasn't a rapid growth in the time of as Abu Bakr, but rather there was consolidation, which was even more critical than the expansion. Because without the consolidation, expansion was not. If the situation faltered at that time, and if Islam crumbled, if the false prophets flourished, etc., etc., what would happen? There would be no Islam to build onto. So this is just making a reference to that in the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, there was consolidation and there was no expansion. I tell you, gharban, what a fatha on the rain refers to a huge bucket. It's also called jarasun. So the drawing of a multitude of buckets, it points to what? It points to what? It points to the rapid expansion. Then the abqariyan refers to a young, strong, healthy young man. Right? Then bi'atanin comes from the scale of nasara yansur or daraba yadribu. Atana ya'tunu or daraba yadribu atana ya'tinu. See? Correct. It refers to the, like how when you travel in the desert, you get an oasis, people come there, the resting place of animals, camels, etc. The jama of atan is a'tan. A'tanul ibili. So as Umar extracted so much water that it will become a, like how you say, a pit stop. Saraya 3. Also refer to something which is unique, something which is strange. That is why it comes in the Quran, لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا فَرِيًّا. It came to with regard to Maryam alayhi salam, لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا فَرِيًّا شَيْئًا عَجِيبًا. So in this context here, where is it there? Yeah. فَلَمْ أَرَى أَبْقَرِيًّا يَفْرِي فَرِيَّهُ حَتَّى رَوَى النَّاسِ. So he pulled off a great thing in terms of his contribution, in terms of his expansion towards Islam, etc., right? Hatta rawad nasu, until the people became satiated. Okay, time is up. We'll have to stop there. We're going to switch over to the Hidayah Sharif now, right? And after that is the tafsir.